Communication is not the key to a strong relationship. If it were, half of us wouldn't be filing for divorce. I'm Naomi Wells, and together with my husband Chris, we created Wells Devotionals, books and journals designed to help you stay rooted in faith, no matter what life brings. Last Tuesday, I shared how journaling started for both of us. Today, I wanted to talk about why it matters, not just for couples, but for anyone sharing life closely with another person. And it begins with connection and understanding. Proverbs 4, verse 7 reminds us that wisdom and understanding are worth everything. They hold relationships steady when words alone can't. Wisdom is supreme. Get wisdom. Yes, though it costs all your possessions, get understanding. You know, when most people talk about communication, they picture conversations that fix things. Long talks after arguments, clearing the air, saying the right words at the right time. But journaling together isn't really about fixing, it's seeing. This is how we connect. When I sit down with my journal, especially when it's something shared, I'm trying not to win a debate or tidy up a misunderstanding. I'm trying to understand myself first and then the person I'm sharing my life with. Writing slows everything down. It lets your heart catch up with your mouth. The truth is, a lot of conflict doesn't come from what we say. It comes from how quickly we say it. We react instead of reflect. We defend before we listen. And somewhere in that rush, the real meaning gets lost. That's why this verse from James 1 verse 19 always stops me in my tracks. Let every person be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. It's such a simple instruction, but it changes everything. When we journal, we automatically obey that rhythm. We listen first, even if it's just to our own thoughts. We become slow to speak because writing forces us to think before words ever reach someone else. And if we let it, that space between thought and expression becomes a place where anger dissolves and understanding grows. When you write about a disagreement, instead of arguing through it, something sacred happens. You find tone where there used to be tension. You read what you've written and realise, oh, that's what I actually meant, or that wasn't as harsh as it sounded in my head. Sometimes you discover you weren't angry at all. You were just hurt or tired or scared. Journaling turns correction into connection because it replaces reaction with reflection. It's no longer me versus you, it's us looking at this together. And that small shift changes the whole atmosphere. When I look back at entries Chris and I have written over time, I can trace our growth. Not because we solved every problem, but because we stayed curious about each other. And that's what journaling does. It keeps curiosity alive and connecting us on a deeper level. It reminds you that the person you love isn't your project, they're your partner. You're not writing to change them, you're writing to understand them. So when you sit down to write, don't think of it as an assignment or an apology. Think of it as a conversation that's safe enough to be honest and slow enough to be kind. That's the real beauty of journaling together. It teaches you to speak with grace before you ever open your mouth. When I first started thinking about what journaling together actually looks like, I realised it wasn't just one practice, it's more like 3 overlapping circles, sort of like a Venn diagram. Each one touches each other, but they're not the same. The first circle is individual. That's where you write just for you and God. No filters, no performance, no editing for someone else's eyes. It's where you pour out what's on your heart, those messy bits, the worries, your private prayers that don't always have the tidy endings. That space really matters because before we can share our hearts honestly, we have to understand them privately. It's where you meet God in the quiet, and sometimes where He shows you what really is beneath the surface. The second circle is shared, that space between two people. This is where journaling becomes a bridge. It's where your words overlap, where you start to see how your individual reflections fit together, or sometimes where they don't. That's the part that grows you. You might see that one of you writes from hope while the other writes from fear, or that one of you dreams big while the other plans small. The pages start to reveal patterns, and with that comes your understanding. This is where the verse from Ecclesiastes 4 verse 9 to 10 fits so beautifully. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their labour. For if they fall, the one will lift up his companion. That's what this circle is, lifting each other up through words. When one person's faith feels small, the other's reflection can steady it. When one person's hope wavers, the other's gratitude can restore balance. You start to realise that your relationship isn't built on agreement, but on alignment, and there's a big difference between the two. Then there's the third, family. This one grows outwards, and it's where the practice becomes legacy. If you have children, it's letting them see that journaling isn't strange or private or something mum does. It's normal. It's part of how your household communicates and gives thanks. It's how they learn that feelings aren't things to hide, but things to explore with care and honesty. Even if it's just leaving a gratitude notebook on the kitchen counter for everyone to add to. 1 line a day, a prayer, a thank you. Those words become the roots of connection in your home. They remind everyone that reflection is part of faith. In the rooted family, we often talk about growth starting underground, the quiet work no one sees. That's exactly what these circles are, the roots that start in the heart, then spread through the home. Private reflection grows into shared understanding, and shared understanding grows into family culture. And that's how journaling becomes more than pages, it becomes practice. So as you think about your own rhythm, ask yourself, where am I writing alone? Where am I writing together? And what might it look like if this practice started shaping the tone of our home too? When you write together, something unexpected happens. You start to see things that would never surface in conversation. There's a certain honesty that comes through ink, a kind that can't quite live in speech. In a conversation, we edit ourselves in real time. We soften certain phrases or we rush through a thought before it lands. But when you journal, the words come slower and they have to sit there staring back at you. And that's where the truth begins to show itself. Psalm 139 verses 23 to 24 say, "Search me, God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked in me, and lead me in the everlasting way." That verse isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. It's an invitation for God to turn the light on inside us, gently but clearly. And journaling does the same thing. It shows you where your emotions are hiding, where pride still creeps in, where fear is sitting quietly underneath frustration. When you journal with someone else, that reflection deepens. You start to recognize your own patterns, how you phrase things, how you often circle back to the same worry or the same hope. Sometimes you'll notice that both of you write about the same topic, but from a completely different point of view. That's not a sign of distance, it's a sign of dimension. It means there's room in your relationship for 2 full perspectives, not just one loud voice. And journaling together reveals tone too. If I read back something I've written and it sounds sharp or defensive, I can see it in black and white, and that's a gift. Because I can choose to soften it before it ever becomes spoken. It gives me a chance to rewrite, not to pretend, but to be kinder than my first reaction. Sometimes you'll even find answers in your partner's words you didn't realise you were praying for. A sentence they wrote weeks ago might become the exact encouragement you need today. That's how God uses reflection, not in thunderclaps, but in quiet echoes across the page. Journaling together also reveals growth, the slow kind that's easy to miss when you're busy living it. When you flip back months later and read what you once worried about, you'll see how far you've come. You'll see how prayers were answered, how storms settled, and how you both changed, sometimes in ways you didn't even notice at the time. It's one of the few practices where you literally see grace in motion. Not perfection, not polish, just progress. Tiny steps, captured line by line. So when you're thinking about journaling, Don't just think of it as documenting life. Think of it as revealing life, the hidden parts, the growing parts, the parts still learning to trust. Because what journaling together really shows us is that God's been writing alongside us all along. Now, I know that not everyone listening is journaling as part of a couple. Some of you might be single, widowed, or just in a season where shared reflection isn't about marriage at all. And I want to say this clearly. Journaling together is not reserved for couples. It's about connection, not category. You can journal with a friend. You can journal with a sibling, a prayer partner, or even alongside your child. The power isn't in who holds the pen beside you. It's in the space you both create between you. Proverbs 27 verse 17 says, "Iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens his friend's countenance." That verse isn't about conflict or correction. It's about mutual growth. It's the idea that when two people are honest and reflective together, they refine each other. And journaling can become one of the simplest ways to do that. If you've ever had a friend who just gets it, the one you can text or pray with and you don't need to over-explain, that's the one you could journal with. And you don't need matching notebooks or a set schedule. You might just be sharing one prompt each week. What's one thing you're grateful for? What's something you've been praying about lately? And then you both write separately before sharing what stood out. That rhythm keeps you accountable in faith, but it also builds understanding and grace. When you see how someone else processes their challenges or joys, it reminds you that faith is lived, not just spoken. And I also want you to remember this. Even if you don't have someone in your daily life to journal with right now, you're not alone here. The rooted family can be part of your circle too. You can share your reflections, prayers, or thoughts from today's episode in the comment section. That's our little quiet corner of the community. It's a way to connect with others who are listening, writing, and learning to reflect in faith. If you're a parent, journaling with your child can be one of the gentlest forms of discipline. You're not lecturing or correcting, you're discovering alongside them. You're showing them that reflection is part of faith, and that God welcomes our questions as much as our gratitude. At its core, journaling together in any form is about shared reflection. It's about saying, let's slow down and look at what God's doing here. It's not about performance or having the right answers. It's about honesty, presence, and grace. So even if there is no romantic partner in your story right now, there can still be partnership. Because the truth is, God often teaches us about relationship through friendship first, and He uses those moments of shared reflection to sharpen our faith and soften our hearts at the same time. So by now you might be thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but how do we actually start? Because the truth is, journaling together can sound lovely in theory, but when you sit down to do it, it can feel awkward, forced, or even a bit intimidating. So let's make it simple. You don't need to overhaul your evenings or sit side by side every night writing like it's homework. You just need rhythm, something small, consistent, and real. One of the easiest ways to begin is with shared prompts. Pick one short question or reflection for the week, and both of you answer it separately before ever reading the other's response. Then maybe on Sunday evening, sit together and talk about what stood out. It's not about comparing, it's about seeing how your hearts are processing life differently and where they align. Another way is to create a shared pages section of each of your journals, or even a little notebook that lives in a central spot like the kitchen table. This is where you can leave notes, prayers, or words of encouragement for each other. Some days it might be a verse, other days just, "I'm proud of you," or "I saw how you handled that situation, and I'm grateful." Those small notes build quiet connection. They remind you that you're paying attention and that you see each other. If prayer is already part of your rhythm, try writing prayers for each other occasionally, not long ones, just a few sentences. Something as simple as, "Lord, give them peace for this week's challenges," or Thank you for their patience with me. Those words carry weight because they're intentional. They show spiritual care in a way that goes beyond, I'll pray for you. And then there's gratitude, one of the simplest and most transformative habits you can add. Once a week, write one thing you're thankful for about the other person. It might be something big, like how they handled a tough situation, or something small, like making you laugh on a hard day. Either way, it shifts your focus from frustration to appreciation, and that's powerful. There's a passage in Colossians 3, verses 14 to 15 that sums this up beautifully. Above all these things, walk in love, which is the bond of perfection. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to which also you were called in one body, and be thankful. That's the spirit of journaling together, walking in love, letting peace rule, and staying thankful. It's not about writing perfectly or doing it every day. It's about creating a shared space where grace lives, where your reflections, prayers, and gratitude can quietly build the kind of understanding that talking sometimes misses. So start small, start messy, start with what you have, a notebook, a phone note, even a scrap of paper. Just begin. Because connection doesn't grow through grand gestures, it grows through gentle repetition, one honest word at a time. When you strip it all back, journaling together is really about presence. It's about slowing down long enough to listen to God, to yourself, and to the person beside you. It's not about having perfect communication. It's about creating a shared rhythm of reflection where love and patience can grow. You might not get it right every time. Some weeks the pages will still stay blank. Other times they'll be full of half-thoughts, questions, and prayers that didn't have neat endings, and that's okay, because the point isn't perfection, it's connection. If you've listened through this series, or even just this episode, I hope you're starting to see journaling as more than just a personal practice. It's a spiritual one. It's a way of building peace into the spaces between us. There's a verse in 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 11, that captures that spirit perfectly. Therefore encourage one another and build each other up, even as you also do. That's really what journaling together does. It helps you build, quietly, steadily, with words that come from reflection rather than reaction. It's how you encourage without lecturing, and how you connect without forcing. So whether you're journaling with your spouse, a friend, a prayer partner, or alongside the rooted family community, remember that every small reflection matters. Every word is a seed. Every page is a place where grace can grow. Until next time, stay rooted.